Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the Lookout Podcast. I'm joined by Jessie Thomas from Sustainable Wellness, and her background is Wildland Fire. Started at 18, you said?
Yep.
And then Smokejumper. Were you a hotshot too?
I was. Yep.
Where were you at hotshot?
Well, I started as a hotshot. Actually, I was just going through old fire T-shirts because I'm making a blanket for my kids, which makes me sound really wholesome, but
yeah, it does.
I'm not. So,
well, you're pretty wholesome. I was thinking, like,
I guess I'm pretty wholesome now, but
yeah.
So I started actually in Region 4. That was like the first fire job I had. I was on an engine, and I think the hotshots were out of the SO, so like in Twin Falls, and we had to go through there one time on our way home or to a fire assignment. I can't remember. But I saw the hotshot crew and I was like, I'm going to just fill in. I'm going to be a fill-in on the Sawtooth hotshots. And at the age of 18, I filled in on the Sawtooth hotshots, and it was really hard.
Was it intimidating at all?
It sure was. And but I was so eager to see what else was going on in fire, because we would go on fire assignments down in the basin and on the engine, and I would see smoke jumpers down there and I would see hot shots down there. I'm like, that looks way more fun than, putting out stumps with a hose or cold trailing like a fire that's been out for several days.
Yeah.
So I saw the Sawtooth hot shots and I was like, I'm going to go fill in on that crew. And so I asked Tom Bates and Dennis Pratt were the soups at that time, and asked them, and they kind of looked at me like, sure. And so long story short, at the end of the season, they called up the engine crew and they said, do you have somebody that wants to come? And I joined them. And we ended up going to that fire outside of Cobalt, Idaho. That was giant. And I can't remember the name of it, but it was like hiking the Salmon River breaks every day, like 2 times a day for
people who don't know,
14 days.
Steep as it gets.
It was really humbling, and I got my ass handed to me. But I just, and then I went back and I finished the season out there on the engine, and we were, doing piles and thinning and stuff like that, or just whatever district work we had to do. And I was like, yeah, I think I want to do that. I want to go be on a hotshot crew. I did not want to go back to the Sawtooth crew because they were freaking hardcore. And I was like, that was not maybe as fun as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So, and I also wanted to go back to school. And one of my very best friends that I had met in Region 4 moved here to Missoula. And she's like, come up here and get a job up here. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. And I was going to go back to school at the University of Montana because I had left school to do fire, and ended up moving here. I lived underneath, I lived in like a closet of their house.
Oh, yeah.
Over on Stoddard Street. I mean, it was like high crime area, like super trashy apartment. But eventually ended up getting hired on the Lola Hotshots, so I was based out of the SO here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then I loved the Lola Hotshots. It was really fun, but I lived in the back of my truck.
Yeah.
And so we would come home from fire assignments, and Steve Karkinen and Tim LaRoche were the soups then.
Yeah.
I think Tim LaRoche was it was Holly Maloney and Steve Karkinen.
Oh.
And Tim was actually the saw boss. He eventually became the soup later, but...
Yeah.
Then we would come home from fire assignments, and it would be like, we'd have like 4 days off, and I'm like living in my truck. So I'm like, I gotta go somewhere different. So then I went up to the Flathead Hotshots and worked with Borgen and Harvey Carr, who is legend. Yeah. Had an awesome time because that crew was such a good fit for me. It was like work hard, train hard, have fun, and be an independent thinker. And I was like, that's my jam. That's what I like. And everybody on that crew was strong and capable and smart and good natured. And it was just a really fun experience. And so I ended up staying there for 2 years, and then knew I wanted to come jump. The other thing was I told Steve and Holly I wanted to be a smoke jumper. And they both looked at me like, F you, dude. Like, here we are putting all this time and energy in to train you, and you're going to leave. And I was like, I think a lot of people leave hotshot crews, It's like, you can some people can do that for a really long period of time. They can make a career out of that, but not everybody can. And I knew that wasn't for me, so...
Well, I was going to say, most of the people that I met, Smokejumper, who had problems with their knees, started from being on a hotshot crew, like especially being on a saw crew, carrying all that weight.
We can talk about that later, about in regards to nutrition. But so anyways, and Borgen was supportive of anybody on the crew that wanted to go be a smoke jumper. So that was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, because he jumped, right?
He did.
Yeah.
And so then I stayed there for 2 years, and then I applied to jump. And I think when I was on the Wake Up Hot Shot podcast, I misquoted myself. I actually jumped for 8 years, not 6. So I was there for 8 years, which seems crazy long. It seems like a really long time, but I love fire, and I loved my time in it, and I had a great time. Smoke jumping was the ultimate adventure, right? Like you're traveling all the time. You're free, like you're independent. You get to roll your own adventure and pick and choose what you do. It definitely wasn't as lucrative as hot shotting.
Yeah.
Going on 14-day assignments, 16-hour days every day, or sometimes longer. But it was still a wonderful experience. And then getting to go be in parts of the country where, I mean, when would I ever be plopped down by a parachute in the middle of the Pasayten wilderness?
Yeah.
Like never.
Never.
So,
yeah, Pasayten's beautiful too,
right?
huh?
So it was really cool. And I loved it. I had a really good time, but I was feeling the need and the want to have a child. And I had met my partner actually on the Flathead Hot Shots. So that's Jake Besmer, for anybody out there listening who
Jake's the man.
He is the man. He is such the yin to my yang.
That's the key, right? I try to
Right.
tell people, find that yin to your yang. I never put it in those words, but that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and I think anybody who knows us very well can see like, oh, that's pretty true.
Yeah.
He's really like level-headed. He's really diplomatic about things. He's a very rational decision maker, whereas I am a little bit like, I have a little bit of a hot temper. I make decisions really fast. They're not always the right one. But that's kind of we're just different people, and we are a good fit, a good team. And so, I was just getting in the jump program. I was just getting older. I was, going to be like 30. Oh my gosh, was I 32? I can't remember. And I had friends that were jumpers who had children, and they were like, "Hey, just gonna let you know that you're not getting any younger." And I was like, "Whatever, like I'm still young." And so it became this kind of thought process where I was like given the idea that you could jump and have a child, and I was like, yeah, I think you could make that work. And there were certainly people trying that out. And I was like, I think I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to try that on for size again. But I had a lot of encouragement to apply for a grant to a grant that was focused on retention, right? Because the Forest Service, the BLM, they spend so much time and energy training people and investing time and classes and in these people, and then to have them just leave after 10 years of development is kind of a big loss.
Yeah.
And I think, this is still a problem. They're still trying to figure this out. But ultimately it comes down to balancing work and life. And it's not an easy thing to do with fire, as you know.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of like...
well, like you were just saying before we started the podcast, was it 12 weeks you were in Alaska?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. That's not an option for a young parent. And if it is, I mean, I certainly didn't feel motivated to be gone for that long. I thought about being gone for 2 weeks, and it just felt like mission impossible. So then the other job alternatives that I was offered were not primary fire positions, which to me was like nothing could ever take the place of my time in fire. Nothing could ever replace fire. There was no, for me, I mean, this is going to sound absolutely shallow and selfish, but I'm just going to tell you, I really felt like fitness and being fit is such an important part of my life. And I looked at, okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to go to work. So before I get into this part, I want to say, I did get a grant to secure. I just did secure a grant for a daycare. It is still in existence. It's called Northern Rockies Daycare. It's at the Smokejumper base. I wasn't the only person working on it for sure. But the grant was ultimately mine. The budget was ultimately mine. It was, looking back, I'm like, dang, I was I wish I had someone to like mentor me through that, because that was like, what the heck am I doing? A lot of like shooting from the hip and figuring things out. But I think that's how it goes. You just
Yeah.
sometimes you just get a project in your lap and you're like, I'm just gonna show up and do my best. Which
Totally.
was ultimately what that project was for me. It was like, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I've never run a grant before. I've never run a budget before. I don't even know how government spending works. And so I'm just like sitting in the front desk, the front office of the Smokejumper base at a desk, and like sitting next to the budget and finance people, like, how do you do that again? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well,
that's kind of the background of that. But for me, not having a primary fire position would basically mean like going to work, working 8 hours a day, spending 8 hours a day away from my kid who was young,
yeah.
to have somebody else do all the things that I wanted to do. And then it also cut into my time to like work out, which I was like, that's dumb. Like, that's half the reason why I stayed in fire, because I was like, I get paid an hour and a half every day to work out. This is the best.
Oh, it's so awesome.
It's amazing. It's like being a professional athlete, but not.
Yeah, but not getting paid as well. Yeah.
Not getting paid as well.
Well, I was gonna say too, like you're saying, it's kind of selfish, but I think everyone should feel that way, like to put their health and fitness as a priority.
Well,
you know?
it's actually an incredibly rational business model for a lot of companies to think about, because I think when your employees are happy, your workforce is happy, you get a lot more out of them.
Way more
They're
productive. Yeah.
way more productive. They're way more willing to stay. They're way more invested in company outcomes than they are if they just have to go to work and be like a zombie slave, hate their job, just trying to make a paycheck and go home.
Punch in, punch out.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. So
I
I
hate
was
that.
like, oh, just that loss of the ability to be on fire, is that loss of, just going into something else within the Forest Service. Just, it didn't appeal to me.
I don't blame you. And I just want to like paint the picture for folks who don't know. It's like typically when you show up at like the jump base, like me and Jessie would do, it's like for me, I'd show up in my PT gear because
Yep.
I'd already have my fire gear in
Yep.
my locker with my coffee, and I'd just like go check in at the box, and just
Yep.
feel like nothing going on. All right, we'll see you in 2 hours,
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
They gave us time for working out, hour and a half, 2 hours, and go PT, and then shower, come back, and
Well, this was me. Like, I would wake up, if we had to be to work, let's say 8:30, I would wake up at 5, and
Cool.
I would go for a huge run, and then I would come to work, and then I would lift, and then
See, this
I
is
would
why I
be
was
like
intimidated, 'cause I
ready to
knew
like
it.
work, and I was like, yeah, and like super, like it was just so important to me. And then there were days I did that, and then I would go jump a fire I had to be awake for 24 hours in the crazy mountains. That literally did happen. I
Holy
went
cow.
for like a 10-mile run in the morning, lifted, jumped a fire in the crazy mountains, and we were like up and down the hill for
jeez.
we were on that. We were initial attack phase for 24 hours, because it was just like kicking our asses.
Yeah.
It was like it was, at night we're like, like me and like Knut Olsen, we got lost. We were like wandering around the woods. We're like, where the hell are we? And
Yeah.
where is everybody?
With that giant human.
Yeah, with
He's
a
big boy.
giant human.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to keep up with him, jumping over logs and stuff like that. But I mean, I adored that. That was like a massively important part of that job for me, was the physical aspects of it, the moving, the lifting, all of that. That was so for me. Like, I loved it. I adored that part.
Yeah, same. And like you said earlier too about the randomness of it. Like you said, 10
Yeah.
mile run, all of a sudden you're in the crazies fighting
Yeah.
fire all night. Like that's random and awesome.
Random and awesome, exactly. And when you're in your 20s, it's like, hello, like, I am so lucky. I look back on it now and I'm like, I was so lucky to have those opportunities to go and ramble about the country like that, like I was just like living the dream. And that's why they say that.
Yeah, totally.
So,
And the group of people, like you're talking like Knut and all these other folks that we were talking about like before we started, that you get to be around, like Blinn, it's
oh
like
my gosh, right.
amazing humans that you get to be like share your time with. And like usually it's things are you're all getting your ass kicked together, but someone's cracking a joke and you're all still kind of laughing, and it's still a good time.
100%. And you're with people that you can make sound decisions with, and that you can make smart decisions with, and you can think with, and you can think quickly and act quickly. I mean, I don't think people that are not in fire, or people that are in fire who haven't been outside of fire, can't appreciate the fact that like the team that you're working with is unparalleled to what you find out there in the wide world.
Yeah.
I always am like, I have, I will go into situations with massive amounts of self-doubt or whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and then I think about the general population, and I'm like, never mind. Like,
Yeah, totally.
not like in a jerky way, but just like, oh yeah, that's right. Like,
Well, you've done some
I have
pretty.
worked with some really incredibly brilliant, smart, fun, capable people, and that is, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And it's like that old thing that people always tell you, you are who you hang out with. And,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're hanging around these like awesome, capable people, like that's going to make you more capable. And that's what I felt too. Cause, before when I was in fire, I didn't feel like I was really hitting my potential. And then like getting with a bunch of smoke jumpers and being on a random fire in the middle of nowhere, and then me being in charge and getting the support of people, especially as a rookie. I'm like, oh no, or a snooky. Like in my second year is like, I'm trying to tell somebody who's like ops foreman, like,
Yeah.
what, at least direction wise and having the support. And then also like getting the communication is so good too. Cause for people who don't know, like the feedback's great too. It's not, I never feel like anyone was being condescending or jerky. They were just like, yeah, that'll work. Maybe, but keep this in mind too. Just more
Yeah.
like people give me little feedback, little bits, little things.
Totally.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, good call. Maybe I'll do that instead or whatever. We could like sound things off each other,
Yeah.
come up with this great plan and go. And then also as and everybody I think in fire is like not rock solid in their plans. It's like this amoeba, right? It just keeps moving
Yeah.
around and you keep changing and as the weather conditions change and as the fire conditions change and everything that happens and maybe you don't get the resource you thought you were getting. Like I kept ordering jumpers on this fire in the Panhandle and they kept jumping out on their way to us because it was such a big lightning bust.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't have anyone left. Do you want a seat? And we're in the woods. And I was like, well, the seat's not really going to do anything, but I appreciate it. So I was like, well, I guess we're on our own here. And luckily it hung up on the ridge on this game trail and we were able to get around it. But
Yeah.
it was like Ted McClanahan was,
Yeah.
like my trainer on that one at
Yep.
IC4, as a
Uh-huh.
trainee. And
Yep.
like Ted's got a ton of experience. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
like I didn't want to act like I knew what I was doing, but in my head I was like, am I doing this all right?
Oh
Am I
yeah.
making the right
No, I
decisions?
mean the amount of mental resource in those environments, in those problem solving, in those situations where you just have to have a lot of executive function, a lot of problem solving skills. I mean, what an amazing group of people to be around. Honestly, like
Yeah.
it's yeah, like I said, it's unparalleled. There is no other place that I think you could find such high caliber dynamic thinkers like you do in the fire environment. And it's not just jumpers, it's hotshot crews too. I mean, like
Yeah.
Sean Borgen, Harvey Carr, like those guys are badasses. And
Yeah.
it was great to learn from them. And the same with Steve and Holly Maloney and Tim LaRoche. I mean, they knew what they were doing. And it was
Yeah.
great to be around them and soak that up. And
Totally. Yeah, I got a chance to interview Borg, and like anytime I get to talk to a soup, like outside
I know,
the
it's
podcast, even,
amazing.
it's amazing because there's
Yeah.
so much knowledge there, and they're just the demeanor of them. Like Borg is this chill, confident guy, and like if you saw him on the street, you wouldn't. I mean, like most fire folks, you wouldn't think anything. He just looks like an outdoorsman.
Yep.
Then you're like, holy cow, you're superintendent of the Flathead Hotshots,
And you've been doing it for a long time. And yeah, I listened to that podcast, by the way, because I did a little homework on you too.
Oh,
And
thanks.
so, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was really cool listening to that podcast because, I mean, I guess we can talk about this. I'm actually preparing for a talk I'm going to give in Region 2 to call some employees in Colorado
Oh yeah.
about firefighter wellness and firefighter mental health. And I always come in from the axiom of nutrition. And so biochemical kind of information about how nutrition plays into mental well-being and physical well-being. But, Borgen has like been around, he's seen it all
Yeah.
and he's in tune with that. Like some people, they've been around, they've seen it all, but they're not really able to speak to the kind of dismal data on firefighter mental well-being. I actually didn't know the specifics until I dove into some research
Cool.
and was like, holy buckets. Like
Not good.
the actual dangers of this job don't exist in the fire environment. The dangers of this job exist in the mental health issues that come with this job or I mean not always, but sometimes they do. And then also fatal cancer diagnoses that we all know. And I mean, if you've been around long enough and you've been in this world long enough, you will see people die from cancer. You will see people die from alcohol abuse. You will see people die from suicide. And these things, in my opinion, are totally preventable. So I did a little diving into that research, and I got to tell you, it was shocking to me. I didn't realize some of the things I learned, and then also sad. It
Yeah.
was like kind of a huge downer. And I think we all know that. But when I listened to your podcast with Borgen, he spoke to that. And I think it was a really good voice for people to hear because I know he's wrestled with some of that stuff. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Borgen. Borgen, I did listen to that. If you're listening to this, I just want you to know that I did hear your comments about white sauce and mayonnaise. And I just want to say that's not what I heard. So if you want to have a little chat about that later, we can.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think it's just a really like superintendents and just people who have been around a long time are such an important resource. And when I was jumping, there was this big emphasis on mentorship. And I don't know where that's at now. I don't know if that fell off the wayside. It doesn't seem to be as much of a topic as it was when I was younger and jumping. But I think it's a really important one. And I think those folks that have been around a long time have a lot to offer. And it doesn't have to be in some formulaic mentorship program, but just the keeping track and keeping tabs on people and paying attention to what people need to hear.
Yeah.
And this is a really hard time of year for people.
It is.
It's like we have like 1 hour of daylight a day, something like that. And
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard. It's around the holidays and there's a lot to it. So
that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on, like this time of year, like this, month is because the shortest days, the hardest, like holidays and all these things and that come up that give you that, like seasonal depression maybe.
Yeah.
So I was like gonna pick your brain on tips and tricks to keep from going down in the darkness,
Yeah, totally. And I think, I think talk therapy is really important. And I think some people feel comfortable reaching out and doing that. And to that group of people, hats off. Like it's important to know when that's going to be the tool that you want to use. And I also think that there's a lot that can be achieved through just staying in connection with other people. I think that's one of the reasons why this time of year gets so hard is that we lose contact and it's dark and it's like holy buckets,
Yeah.
And then you're away from a group of people like we just talked about who you really identify with, who really understand you and who really are mission focused with you to then go try to figure it out with your family. And there is a surprisingly large amount of wellness people popping up trying to speak to the firefighter community. And like, I think it's great. The only thing I want to say is that, again, like until you've been around long enough to see people die from preventable situations, you don't really know how to come into the conversation in a really meaningful way.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I want to talk to you and like Ashley Taylor from
yes, what
Born in
she's doing
Ashes.
is awesome.
Yeah, and then Danny from Close the Gap Wellness too, because all three of you gals, have tons of fire experience, especially between the three of you. So it's like, I don't know, to me at least, if I was going to reach out, I'd want to talk to you or Danny or Ashley.
Somebody that's been in the, I mean, even like getting like healthcare, like I've been in the doctor's office, like describing what I'm experiencing. And like, there could be like this is actually something that happened. I was in a naturopathic office here in Missoula. I'm jumping down the river of Tangent, by the way. So come join me in my boat. We're heading down. We're heading down. So, I'm in this naturopathic doctor's office. I'm getting some treatment, like an IV treatment or something like that, because I was dealing like my kids are really little, but I was dealing with like fatigue that was out of this world.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm in this office. I'm sitting in this little chair. Get an IV therapy for fatigue, whatever the hell that was. And then I'm sitting next to this dude who was a pilot.
Oh.
And they're like chelating his blood, right? And they're, they were having this conversation like, well, I'm a pilot. So they just assumed that I was exposed to heavy metal. I'm like, well, wait a minute. They know I'm a smoke jumper. They know I've been a smoke jumper for a long time. And nobody's talking to me about heavy metals. Nobody's talking to me about chelation as a possible way forward with the fatigue that I'm dealing with. And why did they do that? I believe they did that because I was a mom and they had I was a female, a mom they had a different story painted in their head about what my health risks or my health problems could possibly be. Whereas a guy walking in there who is a pilot, they're like, oh, easy, Jet A. That's where your exposure was. So clearly we're going to, manage your health, go straight to the heavy metals. Whereas I'm like, I'm fucking tired as fuck. I don't know what's going on. And, sometimes it takes like a birth of a child for your body just to hit a tipping point where it's like all of a sudden these heavy metals have been living in your tissues dormant, then come forward. And then you have all this shitstorm going on.
That just kind of stirs it all up. Well, that's what I was going to talk to you about too, is like at least with my experience with human anatomy, I had a great professor here in town. But like, there's just so much. You feel like you're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that like me and my wife talk about with kids and hormones. And then you did a really good post on like menopause and stuff. Like no one's addressing these things. And it's like, we should be in school. We should be talking about like, as humans, what to expect with life, like especially college kids, like what's next if you're gonna have a family. Here's the things that you should be preparing for, like childbirth and like the hormone dump that happens to a female after she has a kiddo, and like what that's gonna be like. Or
just getting in really good condition before you get pregnant, is humongous because you're passing along. Both dad and mom are passing along.
I was going to say that.
Germline cells that's what makes your child. And so if your in every cell in your body, all we are is a big bag of cells. That's what we are. Yeah. Every cell in your body requires ATP production. Every cell that requires ATP production is dependent upon certain inputs, dependent upon certain micronutrients, sunlight, things, nature.
Yeah, nature, yeah.
And as you can be really scientific about it, or you can kind of take this perspective. And I swear to God, I learned as much about human biology and anatomy and physiology looking out the door of the jump ship as I did in a textbook. And the reason for that is because you have this concrete picture of what something whole and intact looks like. You can see how certain topography is going to affect the fuels on that hillside. You can see how water is going to flow based on the soil type, based on what sort of vegetation is growing there. And everything is interconnected. And the human body is no effing different. So we have this notion in our Western medicine culture that like loves I just want to point out that the United States occupies about 25% of the world's population. Out of that space in the world's population, we consume 82% of all pharmaceutical drugs produced in the freaking world.
Oh, it's bad.
Write that down, everyone.
Yeah, it's bad.
Because I want you to take note.
Yeah.
We are so manipulated, primed, and conditioned to be consumers of those products, not just us, but the whole medical system that we rely on to give us information about health in our bodies and empower us to make decisions. Well, we're not getting accurate information. Like, I could say something about the 6 billion pounds of glyphosate that we spray on the world a year. Yeah. I could say something about how it's impacting not just ecological health, not just water health and human health. I could talk about all of that, and I can share more information about that. And these are chemicals that are like laden all over food in the fire
doesn't
lunches.
Wash off.
You're not getting rid of that with water, if you can at all. I mean, it's even been detected in rain. So even organic farmers who are trying to raise organic crops are challenged with the task of, there's glyphosate in the rainwater. So you might want to be certified organic, but you're not going to be certified organic if all the farmers around you are impacting the ecosystem in that way, because it's going to be in the rain cycle and you're fucked basically.
Yeah.
So I could say something about
'Cause it
that.
evaporates probably into the sky
Yep.
off the crop that got sprayed by, or whatever
Yeah.
application of glyphosate.
Glyphosate. Yeah, I know. It's a tricky one.
Something. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense though. Like, why wouldn't it go up in the clouds if it's attached to some kind of water source, you know?
Absolutely. And down into the groundwater, and then,
Yeah.
the whole water cycle. And so,
Well, and to tie into that real quick too, because everyone thinks that, like, if you talk about that now, it's like tinfoil hats, but like,
yeah.
that famous author, I can't remember her name. Like, God dang, I gotta read her book too. But it's Silent Spring is her book.
Rachel Carson. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an old book. She wrote that forever ago.
In the 70s.
Yeah.
I was at the University of Montana Library finishing that book for some class. I can't remember what class it was. I cried openly, cried in the library, because it was like, like everything she was saying, I was like, and it was an old book. It was like the words were dated, the language was dated, but the topic and the content was like so relatable to right now.
Yeah.
But I could say something about that, and there would be teams of registered dietitians that come with their torches and want to burn me down.
Yeah.
And it's tough because doctors don't even talk about these things. Doctors get, again, we're going to go back to talking about this, but, doctors get less than 20 hours of education on nutrition. They get like almost 300 hours of education on pharmacology, the Merck manual. This is, I am not, this is literal. This is what defines standards of care in American healthcare system. And this is what is informing a lot of people. But the thing with firefighters is that firefighting is not a health neutral profession. You are basically a sitting duck for everything. So then we just had this policy change where female firefighter reproductive cancers will not be covered under
the presumptive diseases.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even think about that until right now.
Yeah, so that's
why not?
Enrages me. That's unacceptable.
Yes.
Because women are more vulnerable to those environmental toxins, those endocrine disrupting chemicals, heavy metal exposure, all of that, because over the course of a month, a woman's monthly hormonal profile looks way different than a dude's.
Absolutely.
And you can't say that they're the same. Why that didn't get covered, I believe, is because they haven't done the science, quote unquote, the science. No, don't get me wrong. I love science. I'm a nerd. I read studies. I dive into this stuff. But
well, that's why you know what you know. And that's why your business, sustainable wellness,
Well, what it really all comes back to is what our ancestors figured out 400 years ago. We haven't had the quote unquote high standards for science the way that we have until 50 years ago or something like that. Ansel Keys being the first one to do and where did that get us? If anybody knows Ansel Keys, he's the scientist who came up with the heart diet, the diet heart hypothesis, basically meaning the saturated fat that you eat in your diet directly correlates to the cholesterol levels in your blood, which is utter bullshit. And the entire medical model still is drinking the Kool-Aid on that one. And that was old. It's been dispelled 100 times over or more.
Was he also the one who was saying salt's bad too?
I don't know if he was talking about salt ever, but
wondering.
he definitely spent a lot of time on talking about saturated fat in people's diet, which people largely lived on saturated fat before we had the modern food environment. Saturated fat was so critically important. And a lot of people listening to this podcast might be male and they might have elevated cholesterol, and they may be going, wait a minute, is that bad? Is it bad to have elevated cholesterol? Is she saying it's not bad? And I am saying it is not bad to have elevated cholesterol. What I'm saying is everybody's biologically different. So your cholesterol levels might be around 200 and mine might be 180. And that might be just great for both of us.
Yeah.
But we have to understand what the mechanism is there. Cholesterol is every cell in your body has a little jacket, an intracellular layer of lipids that live around every cell. So when you have elevated cholesterol, let's say normally you're normally cholesterol, you're 180, and you then all of a sudden jump up to 220. Okay, well, why is that happening? it's probably because of some inflammatory experience that you're dealing with.
Oh.
And I talk to men all the time about cholesterol. And it almost always is synonymous. High cholesterol is almost always synonymous with low vitamin D levels.
Oh.
And that, and that is because in the northern hemisphere, we need sunlight. We need sun on our skin to upregulate the vitamin D and to utilize the cholesterol to do that. So
Oh.
we've basically like put a huge block in that whole circuit. And
So that'll change seasonally then, right?
it can if you're getting sun exposure. But this, I mean, just, I'm kind of going off again.
Yeah.
We're down like a new branch
That's
of
perfect. I
this
like it.
creek, and
Yeah, I love
we are paddling. I'm paddling hard here.
Yeah, I'm just hanging on.
But I mean, it's a really common health problem for men, and they're getting such bad information. And then we have a medical system that doesn't really know how to deal with or address environmental toxins in a very meaningful way. Glutathione is a hugely important antioxidant that lives in your body, and we need certain amino acids to make it. And when we don't have those amino acids on board to make it, we don't make it. And so then we are basically laid bare. Like glutathione will act in the body. If you get exposure to heavy metal or something like that, glutathione will come on board. It's endogenous. Your body makes it, and it will dismantle environmental toxins, make them benign, and send them out detox pathways. It's like the crazy coolest. And we need it for so many other cellular functions.
So even like cancer prevention probably, right then?
Absolutely. I mean, if anybody leaves this podcast today, I want you to understand one thing. Eat things that bring glutathione into your life. Eat cruciferous vegetables. It's super important. I think that there's, I don't know, maybe you didn't want to talk about firefighter wellness.
No, I definitely
Here
did.
we are.
Yeah, no, I definitely did. And just to clarify, like carnivorous vegetables, which I should know this, but it's like kale and
Thank
spinach.
you for asking.
And
I just assume everybody knows that.
I should know it, but
it's your broccoli, it's your Brussels sprouts, it's your broccoli. Broccoli sprouts are huge. And you know
I
what?
do a lot of broccoli sprouts. Love it.
Yeah, and you can get those. I mean, you can make those on your kitchen counter. I just did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they
they're
were
great.
delicious.
Well, yeah. Dr. Rhonda Patrick said they have some kind of enzyme that keeps your brain from shrinking with age or something.
They have sulforaphane
Oh,
in
maybe
them.
that's what she's saying. Is that the same thing in blueberries?
No. I mean,
'Cause she was saying something about
blueberries don't
blueberries
have
and broccoli sprouts were supposed to keep your brain from shrinking with age. So I was like, I'm gonna eat all these.
Oh, great. No,
But
good.
I saw that a long time ago, so I don't know if that's still
That's great. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. An enzyme that prevents your brain from shrinking.
because
well,
they're saying because she was saying like
potent
when the age,
antioxidants are involved, which if like
which is always good.
is always good. Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, fire is not a health neutral position to hold as a profession, and everybody needs to take the opportunities that they have. You're not going to be able to like eat perfectly when you're during fire season.
It wrecked me.
Oh man, yeah.
MREs and freeze drieds just killed me.
Yeah, it's rough. It's real too. And I was always like the dork who was like, hey, like, like going when we were packing food boxes and we were purchasing food for food boxes, I'd be like up Steve Reeves' ass, like, hey, can we, get some vegetables in here? And he got it. I think he got it. He knew because his wife was always like the super healthy person in their family. I think he was just kind of along for the ride, but he was cool. He like entertained my requests, and as a result, there was more vegetables in the fire boxes, although they were canned and the cans were lined with BPA and whatever. But it's better. It's better than nothing. It's better than a whatever you could be eating. So
brown bag lunch.
A brown bag lunch.
Yeah.
The 2,000 calories of whatever the fuck
Yeah,
calories
comes
they
with
figure out
little
to
fucking
give you.
brick thing, It's like with your heater that smells like cancer.
Dude, yeah. It smells like cancer.
Oh, it smells so
That's bad. That's bad. If something smells like cancer, that's really bad.
That's just what I assume cancer smells like, is a MRE heater.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's really popular for people to hear right now that everyone wants to glob onto it, and it's like, cool, like I'm here for that, but it's the protein conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's hearing they need to eat more protein, and actually they do. This isn't true for like teenagers or kids. Like, I just want everyone to realize that age makes a difference. I think it's funny because I say protein all the time, but then I forget, like, actually kids don't need that. Kids are like amazing at taking whatever calories that they're consuming and upregulating the mTOR pathway in their body, which is what you need for muscle protein synthesis. That's how you make take the food that you're eating and turn it into muscle and energy. But kids are great at that. The older we get, I would say past like age 25, the more we start to decline in that department. And 1 gram of protein per pound of healthy body weight is the ongoing recommendation. I see that being a really beneficial statement. However, what I'm really noticed from recommending that in practice is that most people's digestive systems can't handle that much protein without some health complications. And, like I've made the statement before, if you're not getting in enough protein, you're definitely not, meeting the amino acid requirements to make neurotransmitters, which is hugely important in mental health. This is our dopamine and our serotonin.
Helps stave off that brain fog.
Helps stave off the brain fog. Helps stave off the seasonal depression that a lot of people experience. But also sleep. Sleep is critically important for... or amino acids are critically important for sleep, and that's like your tryptophan. That's that whole pathway. Not enough tryptophan, then you will not be making enough melatonin. And so, but like you can eat all the amino acids that you want. Like you can just be like taking it powdered form, eating like 10 pounds of meat every day. But if your digestive tract isn't absorbing that, it's not going to really get you where you need to be. And a lot of people struggle there. A lot of people struggle there, especially after a long ass fire season where you're getting in 1,000 hours of overtime, and then you're slammed back into a stressful home environment. And then all the things, life piles up. And then you're like, stress is a huge negative impact on our digestive system. So, and our soft tissue. Cortisol will break down a joint faster than, like a fire camp employee on demobbing, demobbing and breaking down a tent.
Totally. Snapping tent poles. And
let's back this shit up and go. Cortisol absolutely deteriorates joints.
Wow. Man, and you kind of see it too because we have such a strong hockey beer league here where a lot of people get injured there. But I wonder if it's like that post-season stress, that just built up, and then you finally get whatever weird hit. And
well, here's where I'm going to make an unpopular statement. This is not what people want to hear. After fire season, your job is to basically treat yourself like an 85-year-old grandma. So you need to get your ass to bed. You need to sleep. And people don't want to hear this either. I mean, I just feel like a Karen. I feel like my new job is like as a Karen. I'm a big...
But like a nice Karen,
I try to be nice.
Yeah.
I am definitely not always. That's for sure. But, going straight from fire season into training for an ultramarathon is a bad fucking idea. There, I said it. Everybody, I'm sorry. It's a bad idea. And the reason for that is because your body needs a lot of resources on board to heal and repair what fire season does to a human body. And if you're not getting that stuff, even if you're not training for an ultramarathon, you're still going to be in a place where you're not building back. And that's what you need to take the opportunity to do, is to build back. And the body that you are living in at age 25 is going, the quality, the way, the structure, the way that it's cared for is going to directly relate to the body that you're living in at age 50 and the body that you're living in at age 70. And I know there are jumpers out there that might be listening to this. They're saying, fucking hell yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It gets real when you start seeing people get knee replacements and hip replacements, and you just don't want to go there. And, we're so divorced from what our ancestors did for food. So glycine is an amino acid that I talk about really regularly. Glycine is one of those heat sensitive amino acids. So cooking style, like how we're cooking our food, translates into the amount of glycine that we're going to get into our diet. It's anything past 215 in temperature is going to reduce that amino acid, like that glycine content dramatically. So that's why like our grandmas and our great grandmas used to slow roast shit all the time. And it sounds like this sounds like Betty Crocker stuff, but like your kitchen and your home is where you have agency to have your own medicine cabinet. This is where you create health. It doesn't come out of a supplement. It doesn't come at the doctor's office. If you're at the doctor's office for a health problem, it's probably because you let things go too far. And I am not against doctors. I use doctors all the time. I recommend people go get regular lab work from their doctors, because they have a lot of really important screenings that catch things.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
You
just not
have
a
to
tool for
do
the
it.
toolbox.
Yes.
It's not the tool. It's just a tool,
it's
right?
a tool, and it is so important to do it. And I think a lot of people in fire struggle to go there because they're like, I just don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
But really what they're saying is, I don't want to know because I'm scared.
Totally. Well, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, cancer and all these other diseases that are popping up. I mean, we talked about Margarita Phillips before we started the podcast. Like, it was like overnight she was gone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that you've ever had anyone cry on your podcast, and I sure as fuck don't want to be the first one.
Well, I may have cried before, but I probably was just me.
But she was one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. I mean, she adopted me, basically. And I think a lot of people could see our friendship. And and everybody had a friendship with her because she was so kind. And she was so, anybody that was willing to be friends with her, she was like, cool, I'll be your friend. And
very approachable.
Very approachable. And I don't think that I would have even considered that. I don't know if I would have considered that smoke jumping was a profession for me if I hadn't seen somebody who was similar to me in size. But she was there, and she took me under her wing, and she didn't just take me under her wing as a potential rookie. And it wasn't like my first year. It was like my whole time with her. But then after she retired, she was taking care of her mom. And I would bring my young children up to her place because I was like going insane. And she was so sweet to them. She'd just take them. She'd just take my kids, and she'd go pick raspberries with them and
keep them busy.
Keep them busy and show them some love. And as a young mom and somebody that was in fire, being around somebody who understood what I was going through, it was like the most important thing for me because I was really struggling. When I left fire, I was really struggling. I, thought I was going to go back, but then the thought of leaving my kids for 2 weeks was just more that I could bear.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go back, but it was not an easy decision, and it was a hard one, and I felt sad for a long fucking time. And, I missed it, and there's no replacing it. And I think that's the conclusion I came to. Is like, yeah, you just got to grieve this, and there's no replacing this.
Yeah. You
got to feel it, work your way through it, and then accept it for what it is. And that's where I'm at. I still miss it. I still love all of the people that I have had the chance to know and love and work with and be close with. And in a lot of ways, I think for a lot of people, myself included, this job is like chosen family.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And
chosen family. It's a great way to put it, because you don't choose your family. So your birth, family, but
you go through some shit with these people, and that's what it's like. So great when, maybe your childhood wasn't exactly what you would have picked out, but you get to be an adult with these people that you did pick out, and it's like, yes, like this is so awesome. So Margarita Phillips, her cancer came on. She was gone in 6 months. Gone. And I had witnessed her struggling with her energy, but again, like this goes back to that piece where I was talking about the male pilot and me and the healthcare paradigm of looking at both of the genders. Nobody ever thought to screen her for shit. And I know that because I was her buddy. I was tight. We talked about things. Nobody had those conversations with her. And so I'm watching her do these stupid ass things to try to help boost her energy up, boost her iron levels up, boost her B vitamins up. Yeah. And I'm like, why isn't anybody fucking asking? Now I'm looking back and I'm like, why didn't anyone ask you? Why was that happening?
Yeah. What was your history, right?
Critical.
What have you been doing your whole life?
What have you been doing your whole life? 100%.
What have you exposed to,
Oh, so I wish I could go back in time and like be a bigger advocate for her, because maybe she would still be here. She was so vibrant. She was incredible. And like a lot of
beautiful.
jumpers, and she was beautiful. That's what Jake and I were just talking about the other day. I was like, Margarita was so pretty.
She
He's
was.
like, and he said, yeah, she was. She was just so pretty. I mean,
because I probably met her when she's in her 50s.
yeah.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
In 13 when she was around the Great Northern.
Yep. Yep.
Or 12, I mean.
Yep. And she just had such a good vibe about her.
Yeah.
And she really was, at the end of her career, she was really having to bolster her energy levels up. And I think that a lot of people were just like, well, you're just a 55-year-old firefighter. Of course you're tired.
Yeah.
Which really, it shouldn't have been like that. It should have been like, hey, why are you so tired? Let's figure this out. But there was a story for it, so they just kind of brushed it off, and she brushed it off, and she joined him in brushing it off, and I...
Yeah, there's dots that you could connect, even though they weren't the right dots.
Yeah, well, again, it just always goes back to why. Why is this happening?
Well, and you can kind of almost say that even about testosterone in males that we're seeing
Oh, my
lately,
gosh.
right? It's
Yes.
like all of a sudden, like a man will be like tired overnight. I'm like zero testosterone all of a sudden in their system, just like
Yeah.
that fast. Like, well, that's not
It's
normal.
hard to convince a 20-something-year-old that their testosterone is in the tank.
Yeah.
But that's actually what is happening a lot of the times. And why is that? I mean, boom, endocrine disrupting chemicals, quick. Like, that's a quick route for firefighters.
Yeah.
You need to explore that route because that information will give you more information about your vulnerabilities in other more serious diagnoses. You need to investigate that. You can't be a medical provider. You can't allow a medical provider to just be like, well, you just have low testosterone, so here's some, what the fuck do they call that shit?
TRT.
TRT. Do some testosterone replacement therapy, and it'll all be fine. There's
good.
what's the clomiphene or some shit like that? I don't know.
It's
you don't want to go there. Don't go there. Ugh.
Also, that's kind of what I think of even with myself. It's like if you're putting something that's not like natural, like it's a chemical that you're putting in your body, and I've done it forever. With the Humira and everything. It's like there's got to be a better way. That's what I kept saying.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties into what you were saying too. Is our ancestors? Is Anthony Bourdain? Did you ever see the one where he was in Billings? He was at he's at the Crow Agency, I think, on the Crow Reservation. He was talking to one of the elders, and he's like, and the elders talking about the health of the tribe and like how everyone's obese and all these problems are going on in their tribe. And he's like, we're going back to our roots. We're all gonna start eating bison again and all these things that our ancestors ate. He's like, I've been doing it. I feel better. I've lost a ton of weight and I got more energy. And I was like,
yep.
And that was a light bulb for me. That was years ago when I saw that. And I was like, yeah, good call.
Yeah, our American food pyramid, the food standards, our food system is nothing short of genocidal.
Yeah.
And Native Americans were targeted with it. The commodity food that they were given was basically a form of blankets covered in smallpox. And
100%.
It's now I think people are kind of waking up to that, but I think that there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, I can do the 80-20. I'm like, well, you can do the 80-20 if you want to have the same fucking health outcomes as...
What's 80-20?
80-20, like 80% of the time I'm going to eat perfectly, and 20% of the time I'm just going to have cheat meals
like cheat
or
days,
whatever the fuck that is. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, like, I'm not the food police. I'm not coming over to your house to slap, a fucking Twinkie out of your hand or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I can if you want me to, but
it'll cost you a bit.
It's going to cost you. Yeah. My time is precious.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say that. A lot of registered dietitians will still be out there advocating for, all food in anything in moderation, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's time for you to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up, because look at the world around you. Take a fucking look around.
Yeah.
That is bad information at this point.
It's like poison in moderation.
Saying that. Yeah.
Literal poison in moderation. Like, that's not good.
Yeah. And so then this gets leveled at me. And I literally have worked with people who have been through eating disorder recovery treatment, siblings who have had a sibling go through eating disorder recovery treatment. It's a very traumatizing event.
That's a tough one.
It is not... it is not cool. I mean, it's a very rough road for those families.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm like, that is not the root cause of eating disorder. Telling your kids not that they can't eat Takis or Doritos or whatever the hell this shit is. I don't even know.
Yeah.
There's so much shit in that stuff that is basically petroleum based. I mean, the food dyes, they're all petroleum based.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? I mean, that's like gas and oil company food in our food supply.
Nuts.
Seriously, no thank you. But we can't say, and again, I'm not the food police, but I am going to tell you that 80-20 is not, if you have goals, 80/20 isn't going to do fucking shit for you.
No. Well, that's what I was thinking too. Like, I've got a sensitive little system, so it's easier
Yeah.
for me to lose weight. But it's like, when folks are having a hard time and they're looking for like the Ozempics or whatever they are,
Yeah.
that new injection thing is just like, and I think that's like a 20% thing, right? It's like within a year you can lose 20%. It's like you could do a lot better without.
Well, yeah,
thing.
you can lose 20% of your muscle mass. That sounds
Is that
awesome.
what that is?
Oh shit, yeah. Those
Oh.
people are not coming out ahead metabolically.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like,
And
that can't be good.
I'm not against anything. I'm for what is the most effective treatment with the least amount of side effects for you.
Yeah.
So I actually have recommended to clients that they get on Ozempic because they're so in crisis mode
Yeah.
metabolically, that they don't have the room to spare. And, and I think that conversation requires some nuance, because I think you could you could find a prescribing physician who could microdose that stuff to you.
Oh.
And have it be effective and not have the negative side effects. Because really, those GLP-1 antagonists are a function that happens in the gut microbiome.
Oh.
And they're cells in the gut microbiome that are not receptive to those peptides. They're no longer working. Their signals offline. And so a lot of people will find a lot of success in treating obesity, metabolic disease by addressing their gut.
Oh.
And that means that you need proper stomach acid. That means that you need proper digestive enzymes. That means that you need, proper microbial balance in the right places.
Yeah, probiotics and prebiotics, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people fermentation.
Yeah.
I'm like a ferment pusher, which I know fermentation isn't for everybody. Some people lack an enzyme in their gut called the DAO enzyme, and that means that they don't break down fermented foods, and it creates a histamine buildup, which is not what you want. It's not fun.
Kind of the opposite of what you want there.
But if you spend some time healing your gut, that enzyme will come back into function and it will work again. And then you don't have a problem with those foods. So really, it's not like, oh, I have a genetic defect and I just don't have that enzyme. It's like, well, your enzyme is just not working right because it's under too much stress. Those genes are under too much stress. So that enzyme, it flips off, and then you get a histamine buildup, and then you have problems. If you get your gut working again, you take the pressure off of those types of genes, that enzyme will come back online and it'll work for you. And it's the same thing with the GLP-1 antagonists.
Oh, gotcha.
If you get your gut functioning the way you need to, what's specific to you, then those cells will be receptive again to working. And then you don't have weight problems. You don't have metabolic dumpster fires, which we have everywhere. And it isn't just the overweight folks. It's the people,
like skinny fat?
Skinny fat.
Yeah.
Well, skinny fat, but also, metabolic disease can look any different way. It's anything. It's any disease where your cells are not functioning. So that's any disease. That's any single disease. It could be cancer. It could be depression and anxiety. And
that's a good one too. Like, good point is depression and anxiety, because like you said, the glaring ones are cancer, usually obesity, and those kind of things. But also like your mental health. Like
Absolutely.
People don't think about that part as much. And then
100%.
I heard a long time ago, and it's actually Ari Shafir from the stand-up comedian
Yeah,
that hangs out with Joe
yeah.
Rogan. He put it in a really good way though, like about depression. He's like, it's it's like a the way his doctor explained to him is it was like an injury to his brain that you're just trying to find the right band-aid. So he's trying to use exercise and all these things and medications to find that right band-aid to let his brain heal. Now he's fine. He's off everything. But it's just like, I didn't think of it in that way. You know, I didn't know what it was. You know?
Yeah. And same thing goes for like, like post-COVID,
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that is an injury to your gut, which your gut houses most of your genes. That's where a lot of our genes live, and that is where food plays a role in how our body receives information about the outside world. It's like we have one single cell layer thick between us and our food, and so it's our connection to the outside world. It communicates to our mitochondria in that particular place what is happening. Do we have enough resources on board? Do we have what we need to function? If the answer is yes, then everything works pretty good.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, because you're eating a low nutrient dense diet, you're not getting out in the sunlight, you're inside looking at a screen all the time, you're looking at your cell phone too much, I'm going to say this. You're going to use, nobody's going to like me for this one, but you're, using porn. It's going to fuck your shit up. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm not addicted to this. I'm not addicted to the things that are, harming my mitochondria, like the cell phone use. And
yeah, Huberman talked about the porn thing. Like, I didn't realize it. I was like, holy cow, that's wild. That it, the impact it has on your
testosterone levels, your dopamine levels,
Jeez.
100%. So like, I'm gonna get this fucking wrong, but
that's all right. people can look it up.
Look it up for yourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, people have this false illusion of cell phone use creating connection. This false illusion that pornography is the same thing as like actual sex, and it will raise your dopamine for like 10% above your baseline for a bit, and then it's going to drop it down way below your baseline. So that's not real dopamine. That's fake dopamine. And that is what our world is just a bunch of fake dopamine hits. And I'm not on here saying that I'm perfect and everything I do is great. I never look at my cell phone, or I never look at it too much. And I'm outside grounding my feet on the ground every morning, getting sunlight in, and I don't drink coffee. And bullshit. I fucking like get out of bed. I'm like, give me the fucking coffee, and like I'm looking at my phone, and I know it's not great for me. I know it's not helping me be optimal. And it is a habit I'm personally working on, because I'm going, I'm 45 years old, and I'm like, dude, this is real. Like, I need to take care of myself. But a lot of the vices that get men in particular are, the cell phone use, the pornography use, the illusions of actual human connection.
Yeah, the TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff.
That drop everybody's baseline dopamine down below levels. Dopamine likes to be friends with testosterone, and when dopamine is low, testosterone will join. And when testosterone is low, so does dopamine. I mean, it's the same. They like to be in balance with each other. And when they're not in balance, then, they'll be in the ballpark with each other. So if you're actually going out and seeking real dopamine, like, connecting with people and being social and doing things that you love outside, seeking, like hunting, fishing, things that like men are biologically designed to do, it's baked into the DNA of men, then you're gonna be okay. Like I think that there's a lot of success that's found there. I actually was thinking about this the other day. So a lot of the wellness things popping up with the hot shots and the smoke jumpers and like just people trying to address the health and wellness of the fire community, which I totally appreciate, because it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. It needs, now. It needs to happen now. But a lot of these folks are just encouraging people to go out and but they're encouraging people largely to go out and run, and not necessarily with anyone. They're not encouraging connection. And these are the things I'm like, oh man, like you can't just go from 1,000 hours of overtime to sleeping in for 2 weeks to getting out of bed and then running and training for an ultramarathon. That's a bad fucking idea. But when I was a younger jumper, Jake and I, we backcountry skied. Backcountry skiing was a huge part of our lives. And then we helped Bryce Jones and Charles Savoya. They started yurt ski, right? Like everybody in Missoula knows yurt ski because they made this business, right? They started this business.
I did not realize that was Charles. That's awesome.
I know, man. Yeah. It was like the sweetest thing. So we go and help them set up the yurt. We cut firewood. We'd get up there early season and get that set up, and then we would ski. And then, we'd have a weekend up there every year, and Jake helped guide a little bit, and then they sold the business. Charles was having a family, and so then we were like, well, why don't we get a special use permit in Brushy Fork up by the Idaho-Montana border, kind of, I guess it would be like southwest of Lolo Peak, and we set up a wall tent, and we just had like a little secret stash, and we'd snowmobile in on the weekends. We had a wall tent with bunk beds, a fireplace. We cut firewood. I mean, it was a thing. Yeah. Like, it was like a thing. We oriented ourselves for the winter. We were in connection with each other. We were doing something totally fucking awesome and fun. And backcountry skiing. No TV, no cell phones, no bullshit. I think maybe cell phones kind of came in there at the very end. But we were just like in the woods. We were working our bodies hard. We were skiing. We were having a fucking blast, living the dream 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And I think, dang, why can't somebody like think about that? Like, why couldn't somebody, I'm like, get your bros together, get your sisters together, build a sauna, you know?
Yeah, because we used to do that. Like, Jumper used to do that. You know, like McGrath's sauna at the Alaska jump base in McGrath.
Oh,
You know,
I didn't know that.
That was a Jumper sauna, yeah, that they built
Dude.
back in the day. And the Russians helped build the one in McCall. Like, that used to be like a Jumper thing, was to build a sauna. And I don't know anyone who's done it in recent times.
It makes so much sense. I feel like the pandemic has had a really big impact on people's willingness, that and just like political stuff. Like, it's hard to talk. It's hard to talk about anything openly because people get so like, and like my daughter and I were having this conversation last night before she went to bed. She's like, dude, it is so hard to talk about anything because people get so upset. And I'm like, yeah, all the adults are going through that now too. And I'm like, man, that sucks. Like, why can't you just talk like you used to? You know, it's totally cut off our ability to connect. And
that's what I really liked about Fire in the first place too,
Yeah.
was like that connection, because there wasn't any distractions. You were just having a conversation with somebody, and somebody who may be from a totally different background. Maybe they're from back east or wherever, and it'd be like, you know, be talking about my opinion on something. They'd be like, well, yeah, but this is how I see it, and like maybe I'd agree with them, or maybe we found some, you know, neutral ground or middle ground or something, or maybe we both still kept our own opinions, but it was still like we could have a conversation without getting angry at each other. You know?
Right. Or just being like worried that you were like against me because you don't see things the same way that I do.
Yeah, so we're like,
what
friends.
in the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
Seriously, people need to take inventory on that shit and like notice it in themselves and stop it.
Yeah.
Like immediately. It is not okay. Like, you know, I was one of the people in the pandemic where at the beginning I was like, oh shit, dude, we gotta like keep everybody safe. And like, you know, I was like, stay away. Like, you know, like, and then I'm like starting, you know, like watching this and I'm like, asking questions like, what are we doing again?
Yeah.
And then I started seeing the impact on kids and I was like, all right, what the fuck is going on
That's
here?
why I got mad. Yeah. Yeah.
Then,
totally.
yeah, and I was pissed, and I started to push back publicly and in like public spaces like the school board setting, and because I'm watching the impact on kids, and I had a strong opinion about it. So I had such a strong opinion about it that I went and I got a job at the school because number one, my kids were there and I wanted to see them, and I wanted to make sure that they could tell that there was somebody there that was advocating and caring about them, and
100%.
And I felt that for all the kids because I'm like, you guys are getting fucking boned here. This is bullshit. And so I went to the school and I got a job and I did what I did what they asked me to do. I wasn't there to be a rebel rouser. I was in support of the teachers, but with the school board, I was like, you guys are a bunch of a-holes. And I mean, I was like writing letters, pushing back, talking at meetings, and
which is what you should do as a concerned parent, you know. And
everybody needs to advocate for kids. It just feels like biologically appropriate. Like I couldn't contain it, and so I got. Oh yeah, I had some moms that were talking shit about me, and I was like, yeah, well, go right ahead. You know, like I give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
But now, who's laughing now? Ladies,
yeah.
PTA, whatever you're doing. But yeah, I mean, it was like, I don't know. I just felt like, I think you could kind of sense people were peeling away from a lot of that ideology. But at the same time, like being the person who was pushing back on things. I mean, Luke, I could talk to you about things that would make you scared. Like, you know, like I might as well just go get my tinfoil helmet on. But you know, once you poke your head through a couple layers of the matrix, like, you know, it's like, oh shit, you can't go back. You can't unsee things. You can't unhear things. You can't uncouple things. And so it's like, okay.
Yeah, looking behind the curtain and also you're like, oh no.
Yeah, and I'm not like, I don't live there. I don't spend my time like freaking out about that stuff. But I'm like, you know,
that's healthy too, right? Like you spend time probably concerned on what you can control, right? You can control what your kids are exposed to at school.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like back in the day, whatever it might be, like lunches were better, food was better, the environment was better, the environment was like the safe place, and the information was there, right? The teachers weren't like persuading anybody; that they were just giving information. Take it how you like it, you know. And then
at my daughter's school, they do like, she's in middle school now, and they do like CNN Kids, and I'm like, you don't listen to anything that they talk about. And it wouldn't matter if it was CNN or Fox. It doesn't matter to me. It's all
right?
brainwashing shit. And then just they're at a school in Montana. My kids are at schools in Montana where they're literally telling children that cows are the cause of climate change, which is the most unscientific statement I have literally ever heard in my life. And they're programming children to believe this nonsense. And
And then not question it, probably.
well, and gets back to that whole pandemic experience where questioning things was very unpopular. It's
And-
still largely very unpopular.
And questioning science or something Fauci said.
yeah, which is the most unscientific statement
Yeah.
ever.
You're supposed to question
That's
science.
what science is questions.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I
whole
mean,
experimental process has questions. You know?
exactly. It's an answer. It's an ask to answer questions. That's what it is.
You have your hypothesis. You don't know if it's going to work or not. And then you run through some tests, some trials, and you have other people look at it and they do the same thing. And then, if you come up with the same results, then, hey, it's provable. But if
And I should tell you that I sat through, let's see, how many hours was it? 16 hours of FDA approval process for the COVID-19 vaccine. And I mean, that was crazy. I knew it was bad. I knew that the FDA approval process was not great. I knew it was really favorable for industry. I knew that going into it, but it wasn't as bad. I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was.
Yeah, and that's
I'm like, you guys already made this decision before you came here. This could have been an email. You wasted everybody's time. All of these subject matter experts, scientists, doctors, physicians, stepping forward, saying this, like, stuff that was true, like stuff that came true.
Yeah.
And they just were like, nope, rubber stamp. Everybody agrees. Bye.
Yeah.
So, and it goes back to like things like a lot of things that I work with clients on is just like understanding that you have to be your own best advocate.
Totally.
You've got to do your own homework. Just because something is for sale at a grocery store or on the shelf of a store does not mean that it is in favor of your existence and thriving.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that today at like my lunch break, or maybe I was on my way here to get fuel, and I was just like looking in the window of the gas station, and I was like, everything in there is pretty bad. Like,
It's pretty bad.
like all the drinks,
Yeah.
it's alcohol or tons of sugar, and then like the whole shelf in front of me in the window was all tobacco products that have carcinogens in it, and it was just like, I can't believe this exists. Like an outsider looking in who comes from a very healthy, like you came from a very healthy population. Whether it was like 1,000 years ago or whether it was just like a country who does things better than we do.
Yeah.
And you went to a gas station, you'd be like, what in the world?
If you were an alien that got shipped here from outer space, and you would just be looking around like going, what are they doing? Why are they doing that?
Yeah, you can just sell this to people, and people are buying these things that make them feel terrible.
I mean, the whole generally recognized as safe. That's a GRAS designation. That is the designation that most of our skincare products have. Our hair, nails, all that shit.
Well, I got super dry skin, and I've been using lotion for years, and I realized like most lotions have bad stuff in it.
They do, yeah. Like Shauna Swan, she's a scientist. She's done her body of work on microplastics. Oh my God. It's not good. Stephanie Seneff, same glyphosate. That's been her. She's a biochemist. This science exists, but that doesn't mean that doctors, physicians, people in alphabet agencies are looking at it. That means that you have to look at it.
Totally.
Because that's the country we live in, unfortunately, right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I want to think about it, and I don't know that I really even care what's going to happen. I'm just more interested in like staying with that trend of understanding that capitalism, the capitalism that we're seeing today is basically a race to the bottom. The regard for human and environmental health doesn't exist, and so that means that you have to get in there and roll your sleeves up and do your due diligence. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like how it is in fire. Like, you gotta get your shit tight, gotta get ready. And you can't expect anyone to show up and fucking pack your bag for you.
Yeah, or keep you safe,
Keep you safe, yeah.
Like, you got to make decisions out there to keep you and your people from getting burned over,
Absolutely, 100%. You can't outsource that to someone else because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, because everyone's going to die.
Well, if you don't get your ass in gear, yeah. And like I said, this is not a health neutral spot. Fire is not a health neutral position. No. And so you go through your whole fire season wiping out vital stores of nutrients that are important for, antioxidant support, detox, and then you go right into training for an ultramarathon and eating like supplements. No.
Yeah.
No, you don't. I mean, not if you want to do this for very long. Yeah. Not if you want to have joints that support you living a good life in retirement.
Well, and that really checks out with me because I thought it was just me and being with my Crohn's and just being like feeling like I'm extra tired, but I would feel like you're saying building even my body weight. I'd try to get as close to get to 200 pounds because by the end of the summer I'm at 170 probably, you know.
And not like feel weak because you're depleted.
Yeah. So and I would feel gas like you said at the end of the season, and I grew up in a hunting family, and we're part Indian, part Nez Perce, and so it's like a tradition for us to go out and hunt. And I did not, and I like hunting, and I did not want to go out and hunt after fire season. Like I don't want to hike, I don't want to get out and move. Like
totally,
I'd just be like 2 weeks of just like sleeping and going to the gym though, like trying to like do like easy workouts and sauna, but like just trying to keep my body moving. But like
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like
I thought it was just me though, is what I'm saying. Because I thought it was just my little sensitive system.
No, I think everybody needs to kind of embrace that strategy and like don't go into the gym and start thinking that I'm going to pick up right where I left off with all the strength I gained from fire season, because newsflash, you didn't gain strength during fire season unless you had unless you're like on hell attack and you had nothing going on and you're like playing deck of cards all the time and you're like constant. But even with that, you've got tons of muscle imbalances. You have lots of weak points. You need to go into the gym and do like the sit and be fit shit where you're like assessing your strengths and weaknesses. You're working with bands, you're stretching, you're like understanding where your limitations are. And then you start building back a solid foundation of full body strength, not just like I did a ton of push-ups and I can do a ton of push-ups and I can do a ton of pull-ups. I'm going to do those things. Okay, that's fine. Do those things also, but do other things to help bring in some balance so that you have some longevity in that body.
Yeah, it takes longer than you think. Cause like for me, being a bit of a meathead, I'd like, I'm going to get back up to benching 3 wheels again, 315. And I threw it on and I about broke a rib. Cause like everything was not ready for it.
And you don't realize, how actually weak fire season can make you.
Oh, yeah.
And broken down it makes you.
Drop that thing right on my chest.
Did you really?
Yeah.
God, I've done something like that at the gym and I had to have an old guy come over and help me. I was like, fuck. Like I wasn't expecting that to be so heavy. Yeah. And then now I'm stuck under this bar. Can you help me?
I was stapled, but my buddy was spotting me, so at least.
That's good. I didn't even get a spotter. I was like, I fucking got this. And I was like, okay, don't got it. I'm fucked. Yeah. I'm going to break my sternum.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened to me.
I'm going to die here.
Yeah, this is it. This is how it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I didn't have that, would have been me. And like, I've had to roll it off before. Like,
yes. No, that's what I had to do. I was like totally rolling it off, but I was like, there was a dude, an older guy watching me in the gym. He's like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, I know, this isn't how I would plan on this going.
Normally I can do this.
Yeah. But no, not after fire season. Like you really have to give your body time to recuperate. And like I said, cortisol breaks down joints like nobody's business. The joints that you have right now are the only ones you're going to have. And good luck if you think you're going to build those things back like you build muscle. Muscle's transient. Muscle comes and goes. Joints, they don't.
Yeah, and once you get that soft tissue gone, like the cartilage and tendons and all that, does collagen help with that at all? Or?
I think so. It does, but there isn't a ton of scientific research to demonstrate that it does. Oh, gotcha. But there is a lot to say for proline, or not proline. Sorry, I keep saying proline, but I mean glycine. Oh. Glycine is one amino acid that is really critical in collagen production, and we're just not getting enough of it in our diets. So, and it's not just collagen. Collagen is the most abundant amino acid or the most abundant protein in the body. It's basically in charge of building everything. I personally notice a difference when I do take collagen.
Same.
I actually take a lot of collagen.
Same.
Because the older I get, the more I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, same.
But then I think that there's also other components that are really important for collagen, like vitamin C. Vitamin C is critical for collagen synthesis. Copper is too. And those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I'll have to dig into my book. I have a great book on collagen. It's written by 2 biochemists, basically, who studied. I mean, they've done a ton of really cool research. So there's all data to support it. But yeah, I mean, we used to eat like meat off the bone. Yeah. Our ancestors that's pretty much all we used to eat. We used to eat the organ meats. Yeah. Organ meats are full of collagen, like heart, tongue, liver, super full of collagen. Nobody eats that shit anymore. We do at our house because I understand the health benefits of it, and I don't mind it at all. And I think here's the thing, our gut microbiome determines a lot of our cravings and preferences because those microbes that crave sugar are trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
So they send a signal to your brain to eat sugar because that's their fuel source.
Do you ever get that? Like for me, the crave sugar thing hits me like, especially like on a fire. Like if I've been working my ass off like all day, like digging a ton of line or sawing or whatever, or like a really hard workout or like a game or something, like that little signal started, hammering me like, get some sugar in me, get some sugar in me. Like I feel like my blood sugar just tanks, but I don't know.
I don't have sugar cravings anymore.
That's the only time I get it. Like otherwise I don't, because it's inflammatory. So like with my gut, I try to stay away from all the sugars,
Yep. Yeah.
So I'll do like a peanut butter and honey or something if I'm starting to get that.
Yep.
Like after a workout.
Well, that's a smart decision because that's got some fiber and fat. So it'll slow the roll on how fast that sugar enters your bloodstream.
Yeah, because you don't want the spikes, right?
You don't want the spikes. Spikes are not great. The ups and downs that are dramatic are not great. You want a pretty mellow rolling boil there. So fat and fiber will slow how fast glucose enters the bloodstream from the digestive tract. So that's really important to make sure that most Americans, what is it? They're getting in like 6 grams of fiber a day, and you're supposed to be getting like 25 to 30. So that's why just simple statement, like get in some more vegetables that aren't sprayed with pesticides would be my preference.
And Metamucil, no Metamucil, right? Because that stuff's all plastic, isn't it?
Oh, that's dude, I don't know about that, but I mean,
that's what I heard.
You don't want to take Metamucil. You just no.
Yeah, you can do it naturally, right?
Yeah, I mean, get Metamucil, get fiber from your food. That you don't need to take fiber supplements. And I had Stephanie Seneff on my podcast. She's the biochemist from MIT who did her body of research on glyphosate and its impact on our amino acid metabolism. So I really think that the reason why we have such higher needs for amino acids now than we did 150 years ago is because of glyphosate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it directly impacts our body's ability to upregulate and utilize those amino acids in the digestive tract because, well, we were told a long time ago when glyphosate first came out that it was safe. And, you could drink it. It's safe as water.
Like
those were literally the statements that came out of the company's mouths. This is how they got it through the FDA.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, they're like, oh, well, it is actually impacting they call it the shikimate pathway. That is the pathway from the soil microbes into the plant. That's the plant's immune system, basically. So it will transfer nutrients from the soil to the plant. And they're like, oh, well, actually, yeah, I mean, maybe it's producing food that's less nutrient dense, but it's still safe. It's still fine. Humans don't have a shikimate pathway, so don't worry about it. Well, it actually turns out that humans do have a shikimate pathway, and it is via our microbes in our gut. And so it will directly interfere with amino acid metabolism. So myosin, is it myosin? That's an amino acid. It's a contractile protein that basically when we're not getting it, our gut doesn't contract to move food through.
Oh, geez.
So constipation is like a huge problem for a lot of people. It's a huge problem for people in the United States. Go to any drugstore and you will see an entire aisle packed with pills, potions, things,
pills and potions, yes,
to help people go poop or help people stop pooping.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what the fuck are we doing?
I know. Yeah. It's like both ends.
Ask
right?
the question here.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's got digestive issues, and for every one digestive issue associated with like wheat, let's say wheat's a very common crop that's sprayed with glyphosate a lot. It's sprayed with glyphosate at the beginning, during its growing cycle, and at the very end. So it's loaded if it's conventional.
Oh, jeez.
And, for every one digestive symptoms that you have associated with, wheat or gluten or glyphosate, whatever the fuck, it's usually glyphosate. You have for every one GI symptom, you have 8 neurologic symptoms.
Oh.
So this is your brain, you guys. This is your brain. Your brain is 2% of your body weight. It uses 25% of your body's energy for fuel.
Holy cow.
It's an important component to your health.
I want people to let that absorb for me.
Yeah, okay.
2% of your body weight, 25% of your fuel goes to your brain. Holy cow.
Yep.
That's nuts.
It is nuts. So, like, you have to eat for your brain health. You can't just be like, my brain's just something attached to my body. it just uses glucose. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's actually not. It's more than that. And all of those things we talked about, ATP production, every neuron in your body is, I mean, every neuron has cells. It's just a bunch of cells that all need ATP. Every damn different type of cell in your body needs ATP, and every ATP needs all different kinds of micronutrients and amino acids and energy gradient, like positive, negative ions. I'm reading this book by, his name's Pollock, and it's like The Cells, Gels, and Engines of Life. And it's like the coolest book in the world.
It's a great title.
I know the title is really
title.
great. It's like but it's talking all about energy gradient, and talking about I really can apply the thinking to the heart. Everyone thinks the heart's a big pump and it pumps blood throughout the body. And actually it just is there to create balance. Right. And they talk a lot about cells, like how cells move throughout the body and distribute nutrients to different, organ systems and stuff like that. So it's just like kind of this whole rabbit hole I'm jumping down, and I'm not going to take you with me there because I don't think I know enough about it to talk about it, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, you'd have to drag me along pretty hard on that one because it's
fascinating. I mean, and if you can, you can understand that. You can like try to understand. I'm trying to understand that stuff because I'm, a nerd. I just like love it, but I mean, you can just like let things speak to you. For me, like getting in cold water, I love getting in cold water. I sometimes will be on a road trip and I'm like, pull over, I'm jumping in the river or whatever.
So refreshing.
It's so refreshing, but it structures your own body's water in like ways that this book describes that I am not, again, I'm not going there, but it's like I'm reading this book and I'm like, well, yeah, that's why I gravitate towards cold water. I love it. That's why I gravitate towards heat and cold water, that contrast therapy that I love. And
same.
It moves fluid throughout your body into your lymphatic system so you can detox it. You can move it into detox pathways and it moves it out.
Makes sense. Helps the scrubbing systems. And by drag, I meant like I'm totally interested, but like I just don't have enough like background right now to help.
I mean,
like Health and Human Performance was my undergrad, so it's
I
have a little bit, but it's like there's cobwebs on it. So like as you're talking, I'm like trying to brush off the cobwebs. I'm like I'm tracking, but I'm not totally tracking.
I guarantee you, I don't think any professor that you ever had would like hear anything that I'm saying and be like, no. They'd be like, all right, she's nuts. Get her out of here.
Yeah, but I can track the pathways a little bit though, like from what you're saying, like especially like ATP and all that, But it's just like some of the other stuff. I'm still like hanging on, but I wish I knew more. It's all interesting stuff. So that's what I meant to say about like drag is like you have to really simplify it for me. But I'm here for the concept.
I don't think you need to make it more complicated than I enjoy cold water or saunas and do that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like really like people who are struggling with how they feel. Get into a sauna and then get into some cold water and then notice how fucking great you feel the rest of the day. I mean, I crank my sauna. We did buy a sauna. Yeah. Pandemic purchase. What we realized how much money we were spending on stupid shit when we stopped doing a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it was crazy because like a whole year went by and we had $10,000 extra in our bank. And I was like, dude, are you serious?
Here we go.
What the fuck have we been, what have we been doing with our lives? So we invested in a sauna.
Yes. Great investment.
Best investment we've ever made. I'm like addicted. I cranked that thing up to 190, sorry. 190. I roast for like 20 minutes and then I go take a cold ass shower. And, and like, I feel awesome. Like I'm like brain's clear. I'm like calm, cool, collected. But then there's other things like, we live in Montana. There's Boulder Hot Springs. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, Boulder Hot Springs. Yeah, it's just north of
where you grew up.
Yeah, my
That's
hometown.
Right.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Because the men's side doesn't have this.
Not as awesome. The men's side's not as awesome.
It's a sad. Why don't you guys have cold pools over there?
I know, like
dude.
Because like the girls' side, like in the locker room, there's like pools and stuff, right?
There's a hot pool and a cold pool.
Oh, so nice.
And I had to just do a trip through there. Like I was on my way to Billings, and we were up at a lookout. We were staying at a lookout, like the Granite Butte lookout.
Yeah.
And we stayed up there for a couple nights. It was so beautiful, but it was so windy. I mean, like. You'd go outside and almost get blown off the deck. It was sketch. And
probably hard to sleep too because just howling all night, huh?
I slept fine.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of used to being out of being a Smokejumper. Well, and Jake too, probably.
Yeah,
huh?
but I mean, when your kids are there and you're like, literally listening to a structure rattle, that you're like, this is gonna make it through the night.
Those windows aren't very.
Yeah, I know they're single paned, old school windows.
Beautiful.
I was like, damn.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I slept fine, But, you know, I had to go through there to Billings and stopped in, did the hot,
Cool looking
cold.
place, huh?
I love Boulder Hot Springs.
Yeah.
It's like that mineral water. I'm like a fish. I'm like, I know that there's something in this I need. I just don't know what it is.
Totally. Well, and kind of speak to like, you know, what your body was calling for. Bozeman Hot Springs is like super fancy and it's really nice, but like it used to be just like the one, you know, inner.
I've never been there.
Oh yeah, so it used to be like for folks listening who've been to Bozeman Hot Springs, it's really nice now, but it's expensive.
It's pretty gentrified.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, and before it was kind of like closer to what Fairmont used to be back in the day, or maybe like Chico. Have you been? Like it's kind of like
been to Chico, and I've been to Fairmont, and I didn't like Fairmont because I mean like wet carpet makes me gag. Like,
oh yeah, it's real rough,
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, because when we went there, we did go inside largely because our kids were really little, I think, and I was like, F this place, I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, and there's always a kind of a funk with the wet carpet. I think Bozeman's got it too, or I don't know if they still do, but I think they had it too. But it was similar to like kind of the crumbly concrete that like old school like just worn. And they were the first place I'd ever been that had like a bunch of little pools with a big pool, and they had like different temperatures. But there was like the ice pool that was like super cold, and then like the really hot. And like even as a young kid, I liked going back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
There was, like, something to that, like you said, like the calling. You know,
yeah, and it's like ancient wisdom. Like we want to put science to everything. We want to like put everything through the rigors of scientific understanding. And well, I think that's cool and important. And like I said, I do like to dive into that stuff. I also think there's a lot to be said about intuition.
Yeah.
And because of how strong the gut-brain connection is, I think a lot of people's intuition is interfered with right now because of how disrupted people's gut microbiome is.
Yeah.
And so it's just another reason to be motivated to, you know, strive for better gut health, whatever that is for you. Like I said, everybody's point of entry is going to be different there. Everybody's needs are going to be a little bit different there, but it's really worth the time and energy. And sometimes it takes years, and it can take 2 years to fix a gut.
Well, it makes a lot of sense too, because I mean, like my native culture, my brother just read the Nez Perce, Fly of the Nez Perce, and he was talking just about like, you know, the feelings and the visions and stuff that, you know, some of the natives were having about what they're doing. And I think we're still capable of it, but I think we're losing the connection because of, like you were saying.
And it's all the things. It's the sunlight in our eyes. It's our time spent on the ground and in connection with the earth. It's not like I drink bone broth. That's it, you know, or whatever.
Green tea. Yeah, I saw something interesting about intuition, because they were talking about like motherly and female intuition versus like even like a battlefield intuition, where folks have like sensed something and be able to get like make a quick move and got away with like a bullet or whatever, you know, bad situation, because they had this intuition like real quick before something happened. And just like the female intuition where you're like, this isn't good.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And those two roles are so vital. That's how we got here. I mean, and they're different and they're both equally important.
Totally.
And they like, I think I was talking to, so Austin Davis, he's our chiropractor.
Oh yes. Oh,
you've had him on the podcast too.
And
he is the best. My kids love him. My kids are actually the reason we keep going back, because I, you know, I'm like pretty agnostic. I'm like, whatever, you know, I like chiropractic work, but they're like, dude, I need to go see the chiropractor. I'm like, okay. Awesome. And they really like him. So I trust my kids because kids are so smart.
Yeah.
But his episode was hilarious too, especially when he was referring to Steven Seagaling, a child, like a baby's head. I was like, died laughing because I know that there's a lot of people out there who feel that chiropractic care is like that, like that someone is just going to come in and fucking Chuck Norris you in the neck or something,
just kill you while you're laying down,
which is so not the case. And I think chiropractic care is incredibly important. It's kind of like ground zero. Like if your structure is out of alignment, everything from there is going to be off.
Yeah, the old foundation's bad, then everything's bad.
Absolutely.
Well, and I got to see proof in the pudding with him, because when I first saw him, my shoulder was messed up, and I remember I was kind of lifting something heavy like an idiot, and which, you know, I'm still trying to work on, probably a lifelong struggle. And,
my gosh, no, I have a shoulder injury from changing my children's bed sheets. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, it's the stupidest thing. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm still dealing with this.
I know. I think I was grabbing a garbage bag and I just like turned it and went to go. And like, I knew it was heavy, but it's just like, all of a sudden, like my shoulder felt a little weird afterwards. I'm like, oh, that's not right.
That's not cool.
I went to go see him and he did that thing where you like,
the muscle test.
Yeah. And he's like, and you could see that this one was kind of like not as responsive, and then he's like, you're just like, it's, and what it was, it just wasn't getting the signal. Like this was getting the full signal and this was not getting the full signal on my right side. And he, you know, put it kind of behind my head and realigned it, and then he did it again, and perfect even strength again.
Yeah.
But always it just wasn't able to get the signal because there was out of alignment. I was like, whoa, I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's so important, especially for like, post fire season time. Right now is a good time to do that. Utilize the seasons you have. Take control of what you have agency over.
Yeah.
Be a self-starter. Be the IC of your own damn fire. Like let's go, dudes. Like quit waiting for somebody to be like your crew boss and do it.
That's a good.
Get up and do it.
That's
like
great message. For
I mean,
sure. Hot yoga, chiropractic, like do all that. Like you kind of said. Like me and my wife actually talked about this at length because she's been with me forever since I was a rookie, and so it's like she sees all these things happening and all these Big Idaho, like he was like gone overnight as well. It's just like
I know. I was like teasing him one day because he had some tissue removed from his chest. It was cancerous, and I was like, so you had like a mastectomy, I was like totally like making fun of him.
Yes.
And then shit got real fast, and then he was gone. Like, in a matter of days, maybe weeks. I can't remember.
It was so quick because I was in Region 8 and I was like, I gotta go see him when I get back. And then I got back, he was gone. I was like, fuck.
I was expecting him to come home. And then Jake was kind of keeping me in the loop, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this possible?
Tough as nails,
Oh,
Great
cancer
guy.
doesn't care if you're tough. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. Again, it's about cellular energy. Cells need energy. They need inputs that give them what they need. And if they don't get it, they're kind of like little bratty kids who do the wrong. They'll like go the other way. They'll do the things they're not. They start acting out. Exactly. And it just depends on what your genetic vulnerabilities are.
Yeah.
Some people can remove heavy metals quickly. Some people can be exposed to things and dispose of them quickly, and some people don't have genetic vulnerabilities towards cancer, but we're finding out that a lot of people do. And honestly, I feel like COVID was such a huge input on people's immune systems that it's hard to. I'm seeing young people who I'm flagging for prediabetes regularly. This isn't just like the old model where we just look at somebody and like, oh, you're probably diabetic, or you're like overweight and I can tell that you're unhealthy. That doesn't matter. Doesn't care. Like cells don't care. But I think that COVID had such a huge impact on our gut, where so much of our immune system lives, that our body the communication's down. We're having communication issues across the board. Really, like with people, we're having communication issues. We're having communication issues inside of our bodies. And it's time to bring everything back online. If we want to see things get better, I think it's just really motivating time to take it on and start with yourself. And because I think a lot of times people spend a lot of time thinking, well, if the world was this way, if people would act this way, then I would be happy.
Yeah.
It's not true. That is not true. It has to start with you. Yeah. Yeah,
because in the end, it sounds brutal, but no one really cares about you except for you,
Nature doesn't care about you. Nature's
doesn't.
Like here, it's like, she's like kind of like a bitch. She doesn't care. She's like, yeah, I'm just here and I'm just going to keep letting you stupid humans do your stupid things. But eventually I'm going to be like a dog that shakes off and y'all are going to be gone and I'm still going to be here and I'll recover and I'll do my things. But totally. she's a thrashing bitch. She doesn't care.
No, yeah.
And anybody who's been out in nature long enough can see that clearly. You're like, yeah, wow, I am going to be, taken down the river, or I'm going to be struck by lightning, or I'm going to be whatever.
Yeah.
So it's about putting your things in perspective to the bigger picture. Totally. And understanding that you are part of that. Like you're there. That's you too.
Totally.
So yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep you here too much longer because we've been here for a little over an hour and a half. And,
oh, damn. Shit.
I know you got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. But a couple things real quick. We were talking about greenhouse gases with cows.
Yeah.
And the thing that I question is, like, if it were cows causing this, then why weren't buffalo causing it when there was like
90 million of them?
Like, that's what hit my brain. Like,
well, it's a different greenhouse gas. It's methane versus carbon. Carbon stays in the atmosphere like 1,000 years. And I'm not shitting you. I just went and saw Frank Mitliner speak at the Farmers Bureau conference in Billings. And he's the lead tip of the turd on that science around climate change and livestock. Methane stays, it's like 500 years. It's less. It's much less. Don't quote me on that. I just remember seeing that and being like, well, that's way less.
Yeah.
That's almost not even. And methane contributions to greenhouse gases in terms of quantity are so insignificant in terms of the amount of carbon being put up in the air.
Yeah.
So this is why it really matters that we understand that animals on the landscape are vitally important to pulling carbon back down. These open grasslands that we have here in Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, even further west or east, vitally important. I know that and Frank Mittlander is this guy. He's a scientist from UC Davis. He's talking to a group of people who don't believe in climate change. I don't judge anybody for what they think. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me.
Same, and most of the time I haven't done enough research to have a good bias. So, I'm more or less like trying to listen to everyone's voice.
Yeah, right. And I'm agnostic. I don't watch the news. I don't really even get super involved in politics. I don't care. But when I see healthy grasslands being covered up by solar panels and wind, I think, what the hell are we doing? Because this is vitally important in drawing carbon back down to the ground where it came from. The root systems of these plants are absolutely important for soil, is important. Plant immune system function is important for bringing carbon back down. And we are just not even having that conversation, and it's scary. It is
scary. Well, I didn't realize it's stupid wind turbine. I've heard all the bad things about wind turbines. Even how they're not efficient, and they, once they break,
that whole system relies on gas and oil.
Yeah.
So Boulder Hot Springs, dude, we're gonna be here for like 10 hours, and I don't want to keep you here for 10 hours, but I do have to say this: Boulder Hot Springs. I'm in the pool. I don't want to talk to anybody. No one else is there. It's great.
Yeah.
This dude comes into the pool, and I'm like, fuck, I do not want to talk to this guy. He wants to talk to me. I can tell.
You can feel it.
I can feel the vibes. And I'm like, okay, fuck, whatever. So he starts talking to me. He was a huge dude, some like gas and oil company up in Alberta. Oh. And he's traveling through, and he's like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll pick your brain. What do you think about green energy? He's like, it's hysterical. He's like, that whole system relies on gas and oil so much people don't even understand.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they don't have a backup plan for when those systems go down. Eventually they will break down. Solar panels break down. They're all being mined. All of those solar batteries and the panels, it's all materials that's being exploited and mined by children, third world countries.
Mothers with children on their backs.
Yep. And Americans, there was an environmental group I brought into Missoula. Now, I have done a lot of transitioning over the last 5 years. I do not stand behind this group anymore. I do not have any affiliation with them, but I brought them in. Now they're all like, oh yeah, green energy rollout. That's what we need to do, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what we need to do.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for everybody to understand where their food comes from and link up with their local farmers, because they're the stewards of the soil systems that bring the carbon down. They're the stewards of the food that brings the nutrients to people, that helps their metabolism function. So in a lot of ways, they're the harbingers of energy that we need.
Totally. Well, even to touch on that with the wind turbines, I just found out this from a class, and I think we were talking about pollinators, and it was just more like a side little thing, but 60,000 bats, I think, get killed by wind turbines a year.
Huge impact, negative impact on the ecosystem, and nobody's talking about that.
Nobody's talking about it. I was like, holy cow, I had no idea. And they weren't even talking about totally even the pollinators, just like the mosquitoes and all these other bugs that bother us that bats are usually eating.
Yep.
100%.
100%. Yeah, it's really a tragedy that we've gone that way, and they're they're brainwashing people in schools, saying this is the solution and this is what we need to do. And I'm here with a different message, and it's really our food producers that are getting screwed because they're getting priced out of land.
Yeah.
They're not working in a system that supports them. So who supports them?
Yeah.
It has to be us. It has to be you and me. It has to be everybody out there who understands that connection. Plus, the healthier the soil is, the better the water cycle is, the more health the ecosystem has, the less crazy wildfire behavior we're going to see.
Totally.
It's a whole system. Like I said, it's all connected.
I was going to say everything's connected. Yeah, 100%. Man, there's something I was going to tag onto that too, but I think it's escaped my brain now. I was thinking about all the other stuff too, because we didn't talk about you're doing an event for the Smokejumpers.
Oh yeah. Okay, so on Christmas Eve, so December 24th, this year, we're going to do a benefit for Lori Messenger. She's in a Smokejumper who was injured in a car accident. She was hit by a driver. She's now paralyzed, and she is navigating life in a wheelchair, and she's kicking ass, and she is one of my dear friends. And so we're going to do a benefit for her at MT Fit. It's a CrossFit gym over by Freestone Climbing here in Missoula.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just calling it the Winter Smokejumper Olympics. We're going to bring it back. I talked to Kim Maynard today, and she did tell me
cool.
that Winter Smokejumper Olympics used to be a thing. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So, but we're bringing it back. We're going to do a fundraiser because Lori has started a Nordic adaptive program here. And I mean, she's just like taking this on by storm.
That's awesome.
And they need a couple $1,000 more to buy the rest of the equipment that they need to create this program. So we are going to do another fundraiser for them and hopefully raise at least another $1,000 so people can come and they can donate and they can get a hard, like, fun, cool workout in, bring your family, and just connect, have fun, laugh, community. Yeah. We're bringing it back. So
awesome. Huge. Well, that's I think too, like the events I'm trying to help out with and maybe even start my own eventually is those kind of things because, or at least just be a part of, because I think that's huge for the off-season blues, that everyone gets.
Man, it
Not everyone,
is.
but a lot of people get.
No, a lot of people get it. And it is really important. And it used to be just like normal. Like I said, like we just built a wall tent in the woods and we just like spend our whole lives out there, and so I know it's different when you have a family, and that's a huge thing. That is really hard because you're tuning back into your family who you've been absent from for a long time, and there's a lot of dynamics to sort out there.
Yeah, a lot of
catching up to do, and working through shit in your family. So that's a thing. But I mean, just staying connected, finding time to spend together. Having people over, have people come over to your house, and everybody make their own like organ dish, like make liver, make heart. And just have fun with it. Like, it doesn't have to be a serious thing where you're like, I'm going to sit here and eat these organ meats because my nutritionist told me to and I hate my life and everything sucks. Yeah. Don't do that. Have fun with it. Like, totally. make it an adventure. And I believe me, if you, wherever you are, there is a farmer or rancher out there that is dying to get rid of their organ meats. So buy them. I'll help you find them if you can't find them.
Totally. Yeah. And kind of on the, support your local farmer stuff is like, if anyone has ever had fresh anything from a farm, it's so much better, It is. It's literally speaking to your DNA. It's telling your DNA like, hey, we have the nutrients you have been seeking. You're not getting it through chips, a bag of chips. Yeah. You can even make your own if you want.
Or white sauce if you're Sean Borgen.
the white sauce. Yeah. But I mean, you can make like your own chips with a better, using tallow.
Beef tallow and potatoes from a farmer.
And just slice them up nice and thin or thick, however you like it.
Hell yeah.
And there's another thing I won't go too far into it, but when we were talking about just like, pouring all these bad things on your brain, what I want to mention about that was the touch with your partner. I can't remember. Do you remember what it is that like just having that physical touch with your partner elevates?
Oxytocin.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Oxytocin. Yeah. So I wanted to throw that out there before the end of the podcast. I think that's super important. Is the oxytocin? Hugely
important, and it's like a chemical that we are all built with. It comes with the package.
It's your happy chemical, right?
Yeah, and it's like kind of like acts like serotonin in the same sense that it like gives you the feeling and the signal that everything's okay, like everything's cool.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really
you get that from touch.
You what?
You get that from touch.
You get that from touch. So even if you want to,
that's me holding a baby.
Yeah, no, I gathered that. I totally get that.
I'm not good at acting.
No,
so
you looked like you were totally holding a baby there.
Sure.
But I mean, it's hugely important. And even if you want to want to punch your husband in the face, or you want to like tear your wife's head off, whatever, still make it a routine to hug. I recommend that people get 4 hugs a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm come from a long line of huggers. So like,
that's good.
A big time hugger.
My family was not. We were not huggers. Really? No. So Jake's more of a hugger. But I know what it
yin
does.
to yang.
I know, exactly. So I know what it does for me. So we make it a point to hug regularly. And we're in just kind of a new phase of our marriage because we've been married together. We've been together forever. Like literally we were like 20 something years old when we got together.
Congrats.
Thank you. And our kids are getting older. And so now we just have more time to like be friends and connect. And it's cool because I like really appreciate him. And I can tell he really appreciates me. And that's really great because like sometimes, well, gosh, I mean, when you're in the phase of parenting that you're in is like two ships passing in the night. You're like, okay, all right, you got this. All right. You know, it's just like you're like on a emerging type 3 incident at all times.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Especially like, we had a cold go through the house. It was the youngest is with my wife. I'm with the oldest, and we're in separate rooms, and then we pass each other in the morning, And,
totally, it's hard. It's really hard. And there were moments where I was like, we're broken. It's all broken. I'm broken, but you get through it, and on the other side is like everything that you were hoping for.
I can wait. Like I love these little moments.
No, the younger ages are sweet, and that you do get a lot of that. Just adorable, precious moments, but the older moments are cool too because it's a lot less work, and it's also, I mean, my kids are at an age where they still like hanging out with us. Yeah. But they're also they're more durable. They can do stuff. They can get their ski gear on. Like I don't have to do shit. Just let's go.
Let's go adventure.
Yeah.
You built adventure buddies.
Get your shit. Let's go. Yeah. And they're on board with it most of the time. Sometimes I have to cajole my daughter, but for the most part, like if it involves skiing, she's in. And
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's a good years. It's good years, and I'm lapping it up like gravy because I know it doesn't last forever.
I know. I think that's what people got to realize too with parenting when they get maybe a little burnt out. It's like even me, like if I'm super tired and my little kiddo is 9 months is not so much now, but like before he's not sleeping, and then he gives me this little gummy smile, and I'm like, yeah, it's 3 a.m, buddy. I love you
so
too.
Dang cute. Yeah. No, I know, and it's easy to. I mean, Jesus, when my son was born, that's when I like hit the wall. Like he was like 10 months old, and I hit the wall, and I didn't see that coming because I just thought I made it through the tiny baby phase.
Yeah, it's good.
But then I was actually pouring from a totally empty cup, lying to myself, thinking, I'm fine. Mothering is only hard for some women, but not me. I'm not that kind of a woman. Bullshit. I mean, I got my ass handed to me with that denial. It is a lot. It's a lot.
So much. I think people don't talk about that enough. Like what I was talking before we started, like I'd like to have a podcast just on that.
Dude.
Like with you,
Yeah.
I
know. That's a whole journey on my mental health that really catalyzed a lot of the things that I take interest in and has shaped a lot of the client base that I work with. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see it coming, and then it just hit me like a truck, and I was like, fuck. So anyways.
Yeah, and then that's coming from someone with a bunch of health background and physical health, like for me, like we were trying to do as much as we could, like getting meals prepped and a happy light and all these things that in the sauna.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it seemed to help, but still it's like, I don't know. I wish I knew more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me the big thing was that I was doing a lot of stuff that was healthy, but I was so depleted, and I was like, I can get 4 hours of sleep and I can crush a 2-hour run, and I can.
Because that was you your whole life.
That was my whole life. Yeah. And then I met my maker, and it's like, no, you can't.
Well, that is a whole holy cow! Like just the amount of calories to like milk production and
calories and micronutrients. I mean, I was just like. I was like slamming whatever, just quick. Everything was fast. Nothing was deliberate. Nothing was thoughtful. And it was just about getting through to the next moment, get through to bedtime, right?
Survival mode.
Survival mode. And,
totally.
And then it all kind of came crashing down, and I hit the wall, and I didn't see it coming, and it surprised me. And then I was just in a dark hole, and I was like, what, how do I get out of this? This is horrible. And it took time. And I think we were living in our house. I think we were dealing with some mold in our house. So that's a whole other podcast. But anyways, it just all kind of came to a head. And yeah, it was a lot. Those years, the years of parenting that you were in it's intense, and it takes you down to the studs. and it will build you back up. But it's okay to be running and gunning and feeling empty sometimes, because we just don't live in a country that really understands how to actually why we should take care of parents. We don't live in a country that's like, hey, we really need to take care of parents because it impacts children. I mean, that was the whole premise of the grant, was that when we support parents, we have better populations of people who function at a higher level. But we just culturally don't get that. We're like, yeah, these are just years, suck it up, loser. And, and then we just leave people alone. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Or kick your kids to some, puppy mill daycare. And I experienced that as a kid too, those big daycares. And it's like, that's not good for child development.
My gosh.
The best thing is having their parent in their life,
Yeah. And the best thing for a parent is to be with other parents, parenting. That's how we were all.
Support system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The old saying, it takes a village. Because that's what it was back in the day. Like you see like and we're all tribal people, like depending on how long ago is all that the differences, right?
Exactly.
So like at one point there was a tribe of elders, female elders that were helping take turns with your baby to give you respite.
Yep. My dad grew up in Shawmut, Montana, and he grew up next to his grandparents, and there were aunts and uncles around, and they just like everybody just did the work because they were ranching, and they just had people around because the job, if you were going to have kids, the job required more people around than just you.
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore.
No.
And we would benefit if we did. The elders would benefit from being around the young people.
Yeah.
The young people benefit from being around the elders. Parents benefit so that they're not under so much damn stress and pressure.
Yeah.
So much pressure.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, we're getting that. We're kind of whipping the ball on that one.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, like we talked about families and chosen family. That's why I think the Smokejumper community can be so great for each other. Just getting together on Friday night and like ordering pizzas and like just being like, we're making pizza, whatever is in alignment for you. But just getting together and having a meal and just ending the week and being like, oh, fuck, we're all alive.
Yeah. Some of the best high fives you'll ever get.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about that.
Exactly.
Because like I've been on the jump world, so if I go to run in some jumpers and they're instantly, and I'm like, and usually I'm going for one of these. I'm like, oh yeah, I want one of those. I want one high five.
That's right. That's right. It's way more real, and that's what it is right now. It's just real.
Yeah.
You're just in the years of parenting that are just, they're real. Like, it's not saying that it's easier later. It's just, it's harder in different ways, but this is energetic output that you guys are dealing with. This is like hemorrhaging vital energy for two other people who don't give a shit how tired you are.
Yeah, no, they
do not care.
They have their needs and they want them met.
Yep.
A lot of milk.
A lot of milk, a lot of handing baby off and taking the toddler and just trying to
trying to share the attention.
I just remember Jake really, when he was home from fires, he was really like on top of taking the kids so that I could get a break. And it was really important. It is what made me feel supported by him. And then, it just literally, I needed the break.
Totally.
I mean, when you're gone on fires and you're managing two babies, there is nothing I did in fire that was as hard as that by a long shot.
Really? Oh,
nothing I did at an ultra marathon that was as hard as that. Nothing I have ever done physically could have matched the challenges and energetic requirements of parenting two young children by myself.
I bet.
Nothing on earth. And I will go to the mat on that one.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a bow down type situation. Truly, it's very humbling. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot coming from you. Like you have, like you said, athlete and Smokejumper and all these things, right? Like, so you're at the top, right?
Some people I think have an easier time with it than others. I didn't, because I was trying to do something for my kids that wasn't done for me.
Yeah.
So not only, and I think a lot of people do that, you're kind of doing something from scratch, and it's not like a recipe, and like you're basically parenting yourself while you're raising your kids at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much introspection because like my childhood was all right. There's definitely some things that I would improve, and that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Yes. Yes. But then you're I felt like a lot of times your own childhood traumas are laid bare in those moments where you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what the fuck was that about? Like I've had a few of those moments. Like, what the fuck was going on there?
Man. Oh man. I've apologized to my kids profusely.
Yeah.
And started saving for therapy that they might need later if they want.
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah. No, that separation though, like you were talking about, like the breaks. Like I was trying to get my wife to go to hot yoga as much as she could. It's a little tougher being in Stevensville because you can't, just buzz to Missoula is easy or Hamilton, but just whatever it might be. Hot yoga is nice because it's 90 minutes and it's pretty relaxing, but it's also a workout. So like stuff like that. So I'm trying to be like, hey, I got the kids, go do something, It's
hard to get away because then it's your time together as a family.
True.
And you don't want to skip on that. And that was my big challenge. It's like, well, then when are we together?
Yeah.
If you're kind of spelling me out, and that felt like pressure on me to be like the one to try to figure that out.
Totally. No, I get that.
But at the same time, oh man, it's hard. It's just hard. It's confusing.
It is.
And you're sleep deprived, and it's hard to make decisions.
It is.
Because you're kind of just living on emotions, and
and
emotions lie. They lie to you.
Totally. Yeah. But yeah, and then that need to want to be around your kids all the time too is tough,
Yes.
Like, so.
And it's real. Like I felt that way too. I was like, I don't want to leave. Like they want me. They're sad when I go, and they tell me, and that fucking
especially when they start talking, you can see they're sad when you're leaving. Well, even like my little baby, like I can tell he's like
crying. Where's my mom?
Yeah, like
and then that hooks all of your shit about like where was my mom?
Yeah, it's like, that's a good point, buddy. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. No, totally. But it I think the thing that keeps you grounded in rationality, not emotion, is that your kids are resilient. They're fine. They're actually fine.
Yeah, totally.
Taking care of yourself is one of the best gifts you can give to your kids. And it's not easy, and it isn't easy for anyone, and it's not straightforward for anyone either.
Yeah.
So it's not just hard for you. It's hard for everybody. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. I think that was a big thing for me, was that I just felt like I was doing something wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why it was hard.
It's like, I could be doing this better.
What a hamster wheel to be on, That's the hamster wheel to nowhere.
Yeah.
Because,
misery.
Right? We definitely need to interfere with those messages and say like, oh, this is just hard. It's not just hard for me.
Yeah.
It's not hard because I'm doing something wrong. My kids aren't crying and upset because I'm doing something wrong. They're just showing me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They can do that. They can show you too.
Yeah.
And she can go.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. That's a good point. Well, before I let you go, I want to have you give a shout out to your social media and your podcast and all that stuff. Like,
okay.
Yeah, if you want to throw it out there.
Well, you can find me at sustainablewellness.net, and I have a website there. And then I have a Instagram account, which is where I'm most active. I don't do any of the Threads or X or any of that other stuff. So it's Sustainable Wellness is the handle. And then I have a podcast, which you can find on Apple, iTunes, or you can find on Spotify under Sustainable Wellness.
Unstable. Oh, perfect.
Pretty simple. Mm-hmm. So yeah. But.
And if you want to listen to another episode, Hot Shot Wake Up, you were on that
I was on that. I've been on several podcasts, but that was a fun one because I got so many people like reached out and had like so many questions and just like, hey, like I've been there too, like it was like so sweet, and I just adored that experience because I was able to like talk to so many people that I hadn't talked to in a long time, or were just like, oh, tell me more about the daycare. That was like such a huge passion project for so long. So anyways, that was fun. And so, I mean, please reach out. I love hearing from people. It makes my day. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And your Instagram's great too, because you're always putting up like a lot of education stuff and little tips and tricks and stuff that you're doing.
Sometimes some snarky stuff. So
yeah,
if you're sensitive, you should not go there.
Yeah, don't be sensitive, please. That's the thing. Like,
be sensitive about other things, not about social media.
yeah, exactly. Have fun and don't take things too serious. I think.
No.
Probably.
Yeah, it's time to maybe head back to being a little bit more real with ourselves and with each other and stop being so careful.
Yeah, totally, like you mentioned before. Sweet. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It was so fun to meet you. Jake has said so many nice things about you, so it was great to meet you in person, and now we know each other.
Yeah, we'll have to do this. Yeah, like I said, I think we could probably do a couple more episodes, and like you said, we'd have
anytime
Jake on.
I'll come back.
Oh,
and Jake, you should have him come on. He's cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, thanks again, Jessie, and thanks everyone for tuning in.